we're trying to rank the top 5 players at each position. This is not easy, in part because I think it's hard to define each position and which player falls into what bucket. So we were all kind of going back and forth on the group chat before we even started doing this on Wednesday afternoon and thinking like, all right, do we just do traditional positions? Do we kind of go more of like the ball handler, wing, center type of thing? Do we just kind of call these guys big men? We went back and forth. We ultimately decided let's just play the 5 positions straight up, and we're gonna just try to do our best to put players into these categories, understanding that it might not be an exact science here, but let's get right into it. Let's start with point guard and kind of work our way down from there. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of disagreement with the number 1 point guard. We're also going to try to come to a consensus at the top 5 at each position. So, Mike, who did you have number 1 for point guard?
I appreciate the easy one. This one is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for me, and I suspect for you guys as well. Not much else needs to be said. He's the MVP. He's it for a reason. He will probably, he's still in the peak of his prime. There's no reason to think that he's ever going to be worse than this going in the next year or two.
Mo, any disagreement here?
De'Aaron Fox.
Very good.
No, it's SGA. Like, I don't think there's any way to really kind of argue it in any way, shape, or form. He's been the best point guard for the past few years at this point right now, and I think it's pretty easy. And I mean, I don't even know if he'll change much next year.
I don't think it will. Look, we could have done a top 5 in the NBA, and we could at least maybe at that point we debate SGA at number 1, but not here. Can I just give you guys what I think is my top 5, and then maybe we just run off that list, because I do think that this position is
this one's going to have
chalky.
I think we're going to have some similarities.
Yeah.
Although I might have 1 or 2 surprises.
You think so? This was the second hardest one for me after power forward.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you where I landed. I went SGA, Luka, Brunson, Halliburton, Cunningham. Where am I wrong?
I have Curry over Cunningham, but I have everybody else in that order.
Same
I had
order.
Curry over Cunningham, and I think it was more just me paying homage to Curry than anything else. I think there's still Cunningham's not quite there at the top 5 yet to me.
Mike, if I know anything about you, you've got Cade higher than both of us.
You got me pegged, my man. I'm number 3. I got him 3. I have him, and then I have Brunson, and then I have Halliburton and Curry 5th and 6th. And I think that this is somewhat of a nod to expecting a little bit of decline for Curry. This is somewhat of a hope that Halliburton is going to bounce back to form. For me, I try to put a lot of weight in, like, what would these guys look like in an equal environment? And they're not playing in equal environments, right? So this requires some artistic liberties on my side, let's call it, right? But I'm like, nobody works in a worse ecosystem than Cade Cunningham, offensively at least. Like, his second best ball handler for most of last year was Jaden Ivey, who promptly got traded, got injured, and got bounced from the league basically immediately, right? Like, there's nobody there to take any pressure off him. There's very little shooting around him. I think he's like the best defender by far of all these other guys that we're talking about. So I think that's the case for me at number 3 for Cade. I struggle with Curry. Interestingly, he's still the guy that, like, estimated plus minus likes the best going forward, thinks he's going to be the 3rd best point guard, I should say. I think, he's lost a lot on the defensive end, and the shot's always going to be there. He's always going to be super impactful for a 7-game series. You do worry a little bit with his age about, like, what's the health going to look like over an 82-game regular season. And I think that I don't remember if you said this off the top, Wes, but one of our criteria was, like, we're ranking guys based on, like, what they will do for the upcoming regular season and playoffs. And so for me, I acknowledge that Curry's peak is probably as high as any of these guys, maybe even higher. But I do worry about the rigor of a full regular season.
I'm fine with Curry being off the list and having Cunningham come up, but 3 is way too high, Mike. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, that's way too high. When you just look at the fact of, like, look at what Brunson just did in the finals and really the whole playoffs. And then when you look at Cunningham's, which I get it, ecosystem, all that stuff, he went from averaging 3.7 turnovers in the regular season to 5.6 in this last playoff run. And that's your point guard, and that's your guy. And I get, again, the whole ecosystem, but he had the same ecosystem in the regular season that he was dealing with in the playoffs. And I think when it kind of got ratcheted up, he wasn't quite ready for that. That's kind of why I didn't have him in the top 5 in general, because in the playoffs, you're still gonna be worried about Curry. You're still gonna be like, fuck, that dude's still gonna fucking rip my heart out. Like that's still gonna be a thing. We haven't had that from Cade yet. Like and some of this, and I'm sure I'll be hypocritical. Some of it's, later on the list, you'll be like, oh, you're betting on a potential or whatever. But like here, I think we're hoping that's what Cade's going to be, but we haven't quite seen that yet in the playoffs. Whereas I feel like everybody else on the list has had those moments, and we are betting on Halliburton having the bounce back, right? In that way, in terms of health with that. I don't mind having Cunningham at 5 over Curry. But I think having him over Brunson and Halliburton is a bit much to me.
So a quick response to that would be, I mean, if there's a lot of recency bias baked into what you're saying, the recency bias being the playoffs, so it should be outweighed. But Cunningham came in 5th in the MVP ballot, like by official voting last year. Like he was at the end of the regular season seen as better than these other guys who qualified for the award, right? Like people were not putting Brunson above Cunningham at the end of the regular season. This is because Brunson went on a heater and Cunningham, who did a lot of good things in the playoffs, but definitely had a horrible issue with the turnovers. Absolutely. Cunningham fell. Curry you can't compare to because Curry didn't make the playoffs last year, So I do think that and it's a tricky balance. The playoffs are more important. I'm not the recency bias is a thing, but it's also you can go off the most recent data you have available. You probably should to some extent. But I do think that we are weighing, a very small sample here, maybe a little bit too much over a body of work that suggested that Cunningham was amazing last year.
I think. Go ahead, Mo.
Go ahead, Wes. Sorry. No, go Wes. Go Wes.
If I were to break a tie here, I would take Cade over Steph at this point. If we're talking, I need this guy for a full regular season and a full postseason. Steph Curry, to most point, I think his ceiling is still what it was. My question is not about Steph's ceiling. My question is about Steph's floor, right? And I have a lot less questions about Cade's floor, just in terms of availability and what he's bringing night to night to his offense as a driver of offense. Steph Curry is still awesome. He would be 6th on my list, and I wouldn't think hard about it. But if we're doing a top 5, I'm going to leave him off just by a hair, and I'm going to put Cade at 5 because I can't get so far as to put him at 3. I'm not putting him over Halliburton. I'm not putting him over Brunson. I did toy with this idea though, putting Brunson over Luka. If you ask me, all right, you get to have one of these guys, I might pick Brunson, and maybe that's just NBA Finals recency bias, but in terms of tough shot making, he's as good as Luka. He's not as good as a passer, but he's not a bad one. And there's just there's something about his style of leadership that I think has to be considered. Like if you had to pick one of these guys, just have this regular season, this postseason. I ultimately couldn't get there. I did ultimately put Luka number 2 and Brunson number 3. I did toy with it. Was I crazy to even toy with it, Mo?
Yes. That's not even 1 and 2 are locked in that way. It's the gap. But first off, the tough shot making. Brunson dreams of making the shots Luka makes. Let's just start there with some of these things and what Luka has done, and basically through his whole career. And then the gap between the passing is way more than you made it seem. It's not. Brunson makes the right pass. Luka creates passes. No, right? There's a difference in that way. Luka creates that. Let's not and it's again, this is the hypocritical stuff, right? Because I just went arguing for Brunson over Cade, and then now I'm going to do the other way around. But we have to remember that the Knicks struggled the first 3 games of the playoffs, and it wasn't until they changed their offense and Brunson let go of the ball for most of that, and then took over in crunch time. That was the key to their offense. That's how they went on this run, right? And that's something where it's the Lakers will not win a game if that's the case with them in that sense, right? Or at least a playoff game, I should say. But I think the gap between 1 and 2 is it's a lock for me. I don't know how Mike feels, and he's making the face because he's yeah, you just made my Brunson argument against but
no, I'm sort of in between. I definitely had Luka firmly above Brunson. I don't think it's crazy though. I think to the tough shot making point, I do think it's interesting. They have almost identical field goal, 3-point, true shootings, playoff career averages between the two of them, almost to the dot. So I think, but like Luka's obviously bigger. Luka can get into spots on the floor that Brunson can't. Luka's a way better passer, as you guys both acknowledged. And defensively, like they're kind of, at least Brunson takes a lot of fouls. Luka's a little bigger. They're both kind of net negatives on that end. I don't know.
Brunson tries harder defensively. I'll give him that.
More consistently too. Yeah.
But when the Mavs went to the finals, Luka was giving more of a consistent defensive effort that we haven't seen since. But and by the way, defensive effort does not mean good defense. Just means he actually tried a little more. But I think that's more the thing. This past season, Brunson did actually try effort-wise defensively.
So did you guys think about Maxey at all? Because I had Maxey and Halliburton sort of flip-flopping for my 5th spot. And I love what Maxey does. He's not the passer that any of these guys are really, though. So
yeah, I went with Halliburton. Maxey was a tough one for me not to have. But I went with Halliburton in that position just because at the end of the day, too, I just feel like I don't think people really Halliburton's kind of Steve Nash.
Mm-hmm.
Taller, bigger, but he's got a lot of Steve Nash in him. Maxey, as great as he isn't so much the creator I would want from my top point guard and a top 5 point guard in that way, right? And we're going to even see it this year. He's going to work at what's going to work in the Sixers offense. They're all going to be off ball at times and work off of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't feel like he's going to be that high level of a creator that we would hope you'd want from that. And I don't know if he actually has that in his game.
That would be the next part of his leap, right? If he does somehow develop that part of his game, that's what would get him, I think, on this list. I did consider him, Mike, to your question, but it was a worthwhile consideration. He's an amazing scorer, better defensively than I think some of these other guys that we're already talking about. But yeah, he was another guy that I left off by a hair. So where do we end up? Let's try to put a bow on the point guard spot. SGA and Luka, we put as our top 2. Mike, you had Cade all the way at 3. Mo and I disagree, so we're going to have to drop him down. But I guess the only question is, are we dropping him under Brunson and Halliburton? Because I think we agree on our top 5. How are we going to order? Mo, I'll let you attempt to break the tie here.
No,
Brunson,
I think
Halliburton, Cade.
Cade's 5, Halliburton's 4, Brunson's 3. To me, that's
Mike, any strong disagreement?
No, I mean, you and I have talked before about how we both thought Halliburton was a top 5 player in the NBA during his finals run, right? And so I'm just a little more skeptical that he's going to find that form next season, at least for the first few months. I think there's a very real chance in 3 months we're what's wrong with Halliburton? I just think he's always been a slow starter. He's going to be injured. Who knows what he looks like? That's all.
But we're optimists here. We're going to put Halliburton at 4.